Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Tech Your Business podcasts. Today on the show, today is another guest episode, not just me talking. So we have a guest that's going to share their expertise with us on one or two things. Today's guest is Richard Blank. Richard Blank is the CEO of the Costa Rica Call Center. So today he's going to share with us his thoughts on outsourcing and different things. And I'm sure it's going to be a really fun conversation today. So welcome to the show, Richard.
Peter, I'm so happy to be here. I love the work that you do, and Tech Your Business is the place to be if you want to make your business better.
Thank you. So tell us a bit about you and what you do.
Well, prior to this podcast, we were both comparing our accents. I'm a Northeast Philadelphia kid. I'm the proud graduate of Abington High School, and I decided to double down on my favorite class, which was Spanish. So I was a Spanish major at the University of Arizona. And then in August of 2000, Peter, a very good friend of mine offered me a 1 in a million opportunity to move to Costa Rica, work at his call center for just a couple months. I got past my parents' guilt and I decided to become an expat. And I worked at my friend's center for 4 years, learned the business. And then in my mid-30s, I threw my own hat in the ring, and we're close to celebrating our 16th year in business. So it's been a ride of twists and turns, but with preservation and endurance and grit, there's no reason why me, you, and your amazing audience can't go the distance.
Definitely. 16 years, that's really a lot. So in these 16 years, what lessons have you learned, especially the unexpected ones that came up along the way?
My good friend Peter, your show, Tech Your Business, are with some CTOs, IT professionals, people that love the technology. I had to hire somebody for that.
Wow.
My secret sauce was empathy. When I worked at my friend's center, I didn't start at C-level. I learned it from the inside out. So I got to hear the good and the bad and the happy and the sad. And I think the biggest complaint across any sort of medium or job is people want to know that they're acknowledged, appreciated. They're not expendable if they're doing their job, of course. But they just want their dignity. And if I could go super old school and play pinball and Pac-Man with my agents, break bread with them, know their names, and give them the proper encouragement and motivation to get them the different levels, I might find that sort of fidelity where people will stay with me, will want to grow with me, allow me to delegate so I could promote them, Peter. And then collectively, that's how you're able to build an organization, because if nobody comes to your birthday party, you have no friends. And there are leverages here. Amazon is in Costa Rica, so I compete against one of the largest, if not the, in the world. So how do I compete, Peter? We do what we were raised by our parents and grandparents. We really do show that we are appreciative of what they do. We give people second chances, right? Benefits of the doubt, sometimes a little bit of guilt, just to make sure I can get the best out of you. And that's how I've been able to make it work, my friend, just by having that sort of synergy and that really strong interpersonal relationship with myself and the people that work with me.
Nice. So for your clients you work with, where majorly are they? What part of the world mostly are they?
That's an excellent question. I usually qualify the clients because they may ask me for certain things that I'm not capable of doing. We usually work with clients in the United States, Canada, a little bit of Europe and Central America. So I have to make sure that the agents have that language capacity, because English is their second language. So we expect an 85% proficiency. It doesn't have to be accent. I would prefer better grammar and vocabulary, because an accent, and I told you this earlier, it's a beauty mark on people. I think it's wonderful when people have that little special step. But I also like personality, because if you're just reading a script, you're a print. But if you're in the moment, you can pick up things from a client. So you can anchor and you can slow down a little bit and you can enjoy the dance of speech. And so when the agents are in the now, taking excellent notes, speaking, translating, and concentrating. This is intense sort of mind work in short periods of time. They find their balance, and I see the art of this speech, and that's why I gravitated towards it. Even though call centers have a bad rap and you see what happens with Hollywood and people scamming and things like that,
Yeah.
there's also another side, Peter, where you've called your bank and they resolve the issue for you. So
True.
there are people on the other end that can help. But people earn a great living from it. And if you don't compromise your ethics, values, or morals, you can do very well with these sort of skills on and off the phone. And so what I try to do, besides giving them a stable career and good pay in the call center life, I wanted to make them more marketable, maybe self-confident, so they could potentially handle the challenges they have outside of the office, Peter, which may affect them when they come into the office. And so I'm just trying to assist people and pay it forward in the best way that I knew how.
Interesting. And one thing that's, because you mentioned talking on the phone and empathy and things like that. And for the past few years, especially since the pandemic, we've seen a move. Most businesses are now working remotely. Most people work limited. They have limited interaction face to face and all that. So what tips do you have? Because interacting face to face is different from talking over the phone or talking through Zoom, especially talking over the phone where you're not seeing the person. So what tips do you have for people communicating and interacting with their clients and partners and co over the phone to make it more pleasurable?
Let me give a little bit of both. My expertise is sight unseen, and we'll go into that in a minute. But for those that are out of practice or have insecurities or just don't have those sort of courtesy social skills, a suggestion is the middle of the eye, because there's energy givers. Look in their eyes all day long. I'm looking in yours, Peter, you're the man.
Yeah.
But there's also the Medusa, the energy sucker, like when you're in trouble. So you don't want to avert your eyes, because then you'll get in trouble. But if you look in between their eyes and nod your head and pay attention, it's almost like they're not going to suck you into that vortex. And there's also certain positioning. You can do mirror imaging. There's certain sort of things you can do with people to anchor with them through touch or through mutual stuff. But I always believe that could be manipulated. And when you're over the phone, my good friend, you are removing 3 of your senses, your taste, touch, and smell. The scientists, as we all know, claim that when 1 or more of your senses are removed, the other ones are enhanced. So I am expecting people to have big ears and active listening, right? They can hear everything. But what about the sight, Peter? What do we do there? Well, I believe in metaphysics. I believe that the book is better than the movie because imagination. And even though I can't taste the food, smell the food, or touch the food, I can describe the food. And there's nothing wrong with adjectives and colorful language to keep their attention, to expand on thought, to really be able to picture what you're talking about there. I believe every time you can tap into multiple senses, either through vocabulary, for example, lending a hand, you can imagine that. And it also has the sense as well. And so there is certain vocabulary that can pack a punch. And so we focus on the thesaurus. We make our vocabulary strategic and diplomatic. And the best thing we can possibly do is give as many positive escalations as possible on the phone, thanking those that assisted us, possibly doing due diligence prior to getting on the phone. But I tell you what, my good friend, we did lose a little bit of this energy here. Thankfully, I was able to survive with COVID, but through VPNs and through certain connections and CRMs and trainings, I was capable of surviving. But you work out better at the gym and with a partner than you do at your house with just dumbbells. And so they were hitting their metrics. It just was different than it was before, when you and I were feeding off of that. And the greatest thing you could ever have is a best friend at work. And Peter, you and I would be hanging out all the time in the game room and having lunch together. And me today, you tomorrow, Peter. If it were your day where you closed the biggest deal, I'm the first one to congratulate you. And I know if my name was number 1 on the board, I could look at you and you give me the thumbs up. And that's what we do. And that was taken away. And a lot of clients don't want chat or email support. They do want to speak with people.
True.
And so that's why I believe there will always be a market for us. I know we compete with AI, but the one thing AI will never master, and if they do, it's going to seem facetious. AI will never have true, sincere empathy. They may have every answer, more than a doctor or a scientist. They have 1,000 answers for you, but they can't give you a hug. And even if it is a machine giving you a hug, it's not the same as Peter. And if someone says, I'm sorry, buddy, you know it's because it's programmed compared to your best friend that's calling you and telling you this. And so there are people out there that want that human touch in that relationship with companies. And as much as technology is getting better, well, that's great. Maybe it could save me time looking up your info. But in order for us to put the ball into the goal, we might need to hold hands and walk together on this, because it's the final thumbs up and the okays and final questions. And that's what I'm trying to preserve for customer support and call centers. And you were mentioning things changing. I would prefer to have that sort of concierge first class relationship that people do have with their clients, which are very valuable, and they should treat them in a certain way because they should be very thankful that they decided to give them the business.
Interesting. So you mentioned VPNs, you mentioned CRMs. So what types of technology help you in managing your business?
The first thing is that thumb time clock report. I know when you're coming to work and you can't have Billy typing in your numbers. It's got to be you. And so that's number one. So that assists my payroll. That's A. But I like predictive dialers, but it's something that someone needs to work up to. It's like a batting cage. I mean, if you're not used to it, it's going to exhaust you. But if you can handle it, then my goodness gracious, the odds are there of triple production. And also, it's much better reporting with the dispositions that we do. I like the fact that my industry alone focuses on quality control departments. It's a simple technology. All we're doing is recording calls, but there are certain key performance indicators that we can skim through and look through quickly in order to make fast adjustments. But that's what I'm paying you to do, Peter. You should be getting 100% on that. What I like you to do is the wild card, the freestyle, the recess, like in school, where you can show me 10% anchoring, or military alphabet, or hearing a dog in the background and telling them how much you love puppies. Nice. So these are the sort of things that, once again, when we're filling out third-party information and we call Mrs. Jones back, we ask how Fluffy is doing and congratulate her on that 25th anniversary, and do those extra 2 or 3 things that the other companies just don't do, Peter. So when it comes down to Mrs. Jones making a decision to where to spend her money, she'll go with you. Yeah, but Peter's a little bit more money. Yeah, but the service is there. Yeah, but I got to drive an extra block. Yeah, but the food's better there. Yeah, but it's more expensive and it's longer to get there. Why do you keep going there? Because he knows my name and I get the best service and I love giving him the business. And he appreciates my business. And then the next thing you know, 10 of Peter's friends call me. And you wonder why businesses grow.
Nice. So that's business growth. I believe that's one reason why businesses outsource their call center function. So what are those main reasons they outsource to companies like yours?
Good question. And let's keep expanding on that technology. Here I have internet redundancy. Okay, so I need to be up at least 99, if not 100% of the time. There are some national disasters, but I do have a backup generator that kicks in. Plus, I'm in one of the best grids in the city by the 3rd largest public hospital, universities, you name it. So we're usually up. Those are the sort of tech things I need to have. That's why the work from home could be an issue. But if, God forbid, there's a code red where all of a sudden their internet, electricity, or something goes wrong at home, they could be on a turnkey station at my center within 20 minutes. And so we have that as well. Why do the clients use us? Well, why don't we do the raking for you or the panning for you? Companies that like to prospect, maybe, mold the agents, coach us, give us the script, and let's talk about the process. But you should be getting the stuff teed up to close. You should be investing your time and efforts. Allow the freshmen to learn the business and to onboard properly. And so I think what a lot of people do is they do busy work, or they just don't have the blind faith to allow somebody to do that for them. And so I address these things early, Peter. I try to see what they have on site to see if I can incorporate it. We always send a pre-launch checklist for the floor supervisor and especially for the IT department. Do we need to integrate? Whose phone system are we using? Five9, CRMs. And a lot of the times when we do these checks or these mystery calls, we might have suggestions for people that they overlooked, or I could compare it to other verticals that were successful and make those sort of observations. And so I always like to share, and it always is done from good faith. And one of the greatest things I've done with clients is not to be a yes man. There's no surprises. And so, especially in your department, my friend, that's why I feel like a novice here, because I have my CTO. But he's the gentleman that will be on a call with me to answer those extremely technical questions. And so I have enough faith in this individual that's been with me over a decade to speak for me. Could they go rogue? Could they unplug the A and put it into B? They could. But then again, how are you ever going to get to different levels if you don't bring people with you? And these people did it through merit, Peter. I never brought in the top guy. They had to earn their stripes, not because I wanted them to, because when you're giving such delicate positions, keys of the company, server room access, this person has to be almost as thick as blood. You understand how important your department is. It could kill a company, or it could save a company. And fortunately for me, through the years, I've had some incredible people with me. And I've also had to hire specialists. Don't kid yourself. There had to be some people to come in here, some Cisco certified people to work on my server room on very specific equipment, or I had to order certain stuff because it had a shelf life or it got corrupted, who knows? But I'm a guest in this country. I'm 3,000 miles away from my mother. And I just had to ensure that you choose the right people to surround yourself. And the tests that I did not do were not colloquial. I wasn't asking them IT questions. Peter, those are the tests that when you and I go out to lunch, what do we talk about? And how do we walk with one another and looking in someone's eyes? And how much depth do you have? Why do I ask you this? Because during chaos, especially with the IT department, you see somebody's character. And so, I mean, the server room could go down, a computer could go, something could go wrong. And I believe, like a surgeon, the chief technical officer needs to be steady, and they shouldn't yell at people on the floor, right? They shouldn't elevate the situation. They're the ones that we look towards for calm and for reassurance. But the clock is ticking. It's been an hour and 20 minutes. I understand that. But this is a professional that is working on something here. And so I'm constantly in touch with clients, or I'm trying to do preventative measures to ensure that things do not happen. Peter, that's the part of maturity and what it's like when you run a business. That's, when the honeymoon stage becomes over. But I'm willing to take the ball and the responsibility and the accountability. But I also want to choose the people. And so that's kind of where we got to where we are today in regards to why people would choose us for our advanced technology and what we're able to offer their companies.
Interesting. You said something just now that piqued my interest, and which leads to the next question on delegation. So as a business owner, you said you started this 16 years ago. So at what point did you know that you were to delegate some functions to someone else? And how did you get to know that you could trust these people you've delegated those functions to?
I never liked the expression fake it till you make it, because you're going to get caught and then you lose respect. I wasn't faking anything. I was starting a business. And so what I was trying to do, like in a funny joke in a cartoon, was wear a chef's hat, be a waiter, a concierge, and what else? I mean, I wish I were an octopus. And so I realized it wasn't faking till you're making, it was over your head. I was blessed. The stars were aligned. All of a sudden, things were moving. And so I brought my wife in, Grace Bourbon, that assisted me with human resources. But then when I was hiring in my accounts, thankfully, out of those individuals, I saw shining stars. And so I would, besides what they were doing on the account, and even though I was new in my business with a college degree, yeah, in Spanish, not in business. And so what I would do is, and I think it's a very intelligent thing, is to sit with the people that worked with me and to hear what they were doing. So then I could communicate with corporate, and little by little, guess what I was doing? Learning. So as long as I was proactive and knew how to write the email and made a phone call, was there for the meeting and sat down with the supervisors and bought them pizza, it was great, because a lot of the suggestions that I was writing down and bringing to corporate, they weren't aware of. So all we were doing collectively was getting better. And I, Peter, started looking like a rock star. And so then I realized the greatest thing to do is to speak to the people that are out there and to not, patronize them or to belittle them or to threaten them or to try to get something out of them through fear, but to maybe do a game where I give you something, you give me something. If you feel comfortable enough with this company to show me how you can maximize the business compared to minimize it, where you sneak time in the bathroom, do the minimum calls, but a player that actually thinks we can do another 20%, then I, in turn, with my advanced English, my business composition skills, and even sitting in on meetings, I would have this individual participate so they can learn certain structure that could be marketable. And so they saw that they were getting not the private meeting, but if they're sitting in with me talking to somebody about how to script write, how to do a training class, what the KPIs are on the phone call, we listening to a call together, and instead of me just giving you a 93%, you're sitting with me for the 17 minutes. And you hear why I'm telling you this and this and that. And they're like, well, okay, I got you. And so they walk out with, bravado in their chest out because they sat with the Hefe and they learned some special sauce from Peter and Richard. And so I realized by giving them merit and caliber and something of value that could be making them a more well-rounded individual besides their salary, it had a marketplace for it. And so I decided at which stage to add what to whom. And some people were so eager. Peter, all you got to do, my man, is just bring a notepad and a pen. I don't like the computer thing. I like old school writing. And if you can do it in cursive, I'm really going to promote you. And so the person that would take notes and have the meeting minutes. So when I brought something up the next meeting, they go, I know what that means. It means ABC. I'm like, that's the person that I want because they mastered this level. And if they master that level, Peter, then they can master other levels. And so for me, I get very excited, not intimidated, when I see people growing because that's what I'm supposed to be doing. They're not taking my job. I'm the boss. But if I can get another person at my level, not even for their own skills, Peter, but let's just say you've been with me a decade and I got $100,000 account coming in. You don't think I'm going to pull you in for a half an hour over some coffee and go, buddy, let's just talk about this. What are we going to do about the script? What are we doing here? How are we going to ramp them up? Remember the 6 accounts we did before 5 years ago?
Yeah.
And so you are going to be my confidant. You are my assistant captain. And they know it. And these are the people that you treasure their opinions because they know you so well. And the only way to get that, my friend, is time. And so that's why I was able to get to where I am today, because thankfully, I've had people that are still willing to walk with me and contribute to the best of their abilities.
Interesting. So you took okay, all the way from Philadelphia down to Costa Rica to start your business. And I think I have a
Yeah.
similar story too, because I grew up in Nigeria, schooled there, then went to school had my master's in the UK, started my business in the UK after my master's, and met a couple of challenges. So for entrepreneurs looking to start a business overseas, what are some key challenges that they would anticipate? Because I know you've seen a lot in the last 16 years.
There's two types of challenges. It's either got to be mental or physical. The mental challenge is not paying attention to the people that have never done it before, that say it's too difficult, you're not going to learn how to do it, you'll fail. Those are the negative Nancy's and the Debbie Downers. You really got to almost sometimes be selfish, tap into your vision quest, your spiritual journey. And as long as your intentions are honorable and you're being responsible, I always believe somebody does have a current in this life. But for me, I needed to learn the legalities, and I don't have the time or the patience or the mental aptitude to go to these sort of schools. So I had to hire human resources directors, accountants, attorneys, and certain chief technical officers, right? And security downstairs for the front door, right? With the contractors, my computer and hardware providers. But I will share a secret with you. It's quite disappointing, but it should be expected. Look at me. I look like you should charge me 20 more percent, right? I'm not saying you, Peter, but of course I walk into these stores and they look at me like, oh man, come on, you can definitely get $120 out. And so what I had to do is I had to have somebody that was local, that knew the local. So first he's local. So now it's not 20%. Now we're at 100%. Now he's got contacts. Now we're at 80%. Now he's doing volume discounts. Now we're at 50%. So instead of doing 120%, I'm doing 50%. And I had to team up with people. I'm a guest here. And so as long as you, as I say, align yourself legally, learn the labor laws, do things properly in regards to your paperwork. I've been married to a Costa Rican for over 20 years. And
Wow.
so, yeah, I've done all the right things. And I've paid taxes here. I feed families. And so for most entrepreneurs, if you're chasing money, you can earn money 1,000 ways. Look at all the different machines and games in a casino. But I believe that sometimes if you want to enjoy the beauty of life, not be a starving artist, but there is something that will give you gratification so you don't hate it. You eat too much chocolate, you don't want it anymore. And so the tough side for me was the administration. You know, the paperwork's tough, okay? And I got disappointed more than I did angry in regards to the attrition that we have, Peter. That was my challenge. Maybe I was naive. I always thought someone would get their gold watch with me after 40 years, but I compete. But I also learned something else, Peter, which reduced my stress and shed some light. There's something called natural attrition. I'll lose somebody because of a scheduling conflict. Come on, man, it conflicts with your university, right?
True.
Or maybe it's closer to your home. Imagine if it's 5 minutes away and you could walk. What happens if your girlfriend works there? See ya. And then how about this? There might be opportunities where you could earn more money, and I can't hold you back from that. Or you studied something at the university and you finally got that job and your degree. I have to be happy for that. But I tell you what, Peter, there's nobody that will ever get the walk of shame. I won't make you cry on the floor. I'm not going to embarrass you. I like to praise in public. And so I think that's helped reduce my attrition, but I do compete against Amazon. So if somebody is disgruntled, having a bad day, or just not where they need to be, tomorrow they're hired. And so for me, there's really no threatening leverage there. And it's not part of me either. I'm not that kind of man. It's, if the cage is open, Peter, the bird comes back. You shouldn't have to force a fit with people here. And so that's been my only real challenge, because I invest time and money and energy into people. And I would like a professional 2 weeks notice, but then I also understand me today, you tomorrow. It happens here and there. But I would like a look in the eyes and a handshake and a good run, Richard. Well, Peter, sometimes I just don't get it. And so being a man like you and I are, we can look at ourselves in the mirror knowing we did the right thing. The challenge is these individuals not being able to look into our eyes because they did something wrong.
True.
And that's it, my friend. I mean, that's any entrepreneur, you can't lose steam on that. There are things that people make decisions on that are outside of your control. But if you do the right thing and you can live with yourself, right? Then you can weather those sort of storms. Oh, I have another bit of advice for you. Can we go over the financial advice?
Yes, definitely.
Good. Yeah, definitely. Good. Well, when I first started, I was renting a turnkey station from a blended call center. So it's almost like renting an airplane seat, right? So was I paying premium? Yeah, back in those days, sure. A couple $100 a month was a lot of money, but it guaranteed internet, coffee, a station, just nothing luxurious. But I could scale accordingly and not have that huge outlay of cash to start. And so after a couple of years, when I had the stable clients and I had enough money in the bank, once again, paying premium, just accepting it, I decided to then rent space. So then what did I do? Well, in call centers, there are attrition. So I was able to pick up furniture and pretty much new computers that were almost out of the box for a fraction of the cost.
Wow.
With Billy, of course. And so I was able to scale a company through used furniture and used computer equipment. I didn't need it brand new. And you understand, if you can get it, don't tell me you can't get a bargain sometimes on a used laptop compared to paying brand new. Yes or no? Exactly. And so I was able to scale that way. I was at that location for 6 years. And during that time, I purchased a piece of property, built a third floor on it, upgraded it, and then moved my people. And this is where we are today. And so as much as I want to give you a quick success story, no, my friend, it was the tortoise. It was not the hare. And it was slow and steady. And as I was taught by my grandparents, if you don't do for it in cash, you don't do it at all. So my friend, that was my pace. And that enabled me to sleep at night, have enough reserves to handle my financial responsibilities here with my employees and my taxes.
Yeah.
And still have a beautiful life of fun. I just never overextended myself in order to attract clients. I didn't believe that was the way to go. I think they were looking more of somebody that had heart than a fancy environment that treated their people poorly.
Interesting. That's a really good take on the importance of being frugal while running your business and how it lets you do more with the same resources everyone else has. So when we talk about that now, it leads me to you talk about competing with a giant that's Amazon in the same market. So how has it been? How has it been competing against them?
I think it's great. They have a fantastic training program. I'll name some companies. Amazon's here, HP, Intel, and Oracle. I mean, we're great for building those microchips. But anyone knows the BPO industry, Sykes is here, Teleperformance, Convergys, Concentrix. Oh, yeah. They're like seniors. And you and I are like freshmen, Peter, but we're still cool. I mean, they're Goliaths. They're huge with billboards and buses and resources. Yeah. But the one thing, my friend, the one thing that Jeff Bezos have not done with all of his agents, he hasn't played pinball with them like I have with my agents. Does it make a difference? To me, it does. Why? At least I got one gold medal. At least I did something different. But that's the sort of thing I'm sharing with you. I've created an environment that has recess. It's got a neutral environment where people can let off steam and make friends and hang out with me, to try antique machines that they made before their time. But I compete, and I cannot compete with them financially. You know that. Technical side, yeah, I got the equipment, big deal. But what about the bells and the whistles? Well, they go through their training, they get on their phones, and they become a number, a big number. It's true. They have a lot of people, and these environments. Thank you so much for coming here and giving jobs and money, and that's great. But you have to admit, my friend, sometimes the cozy little restaurant gives you better service and better food
Definitely.
than if you were at that huge cafeteria where the waiter hasn't been there for 45 minutes. Yes or no? And so there are certain environments, depending on the account, that can be done in a boutique, in a smaller environment. So where am I going with this? Well, my entry level matches all these companies. I know what the market is. So why am I going to charge more or charge less? If I pay someone less, they're not going to come work for me. If I do more, then once again, the client, we got to make sure they understand exactly where the market is.
Yes.
So I match them. But a lot of people want an environment where they're not hidden. Some people do want to be in an environment where I know your name, Peter. I listen to calls. I break bread with you and pinball, and it's close to home. I don't have the tens of thousands as they do. Wish I did. I only have 150, which allows me to be selective. So it's exceptionally easy for me to find the right bus, right seat people. I don't need to cattle call or carpet bomb or bring them in. I can be selective. And I'd like to share a secret with you, because I know that people qualify to get hired, but like in Hollywood, half of it is, can they work with you? You know, you'll fill out the forms and you'll give me all of the qualifications and bells and whistles and telling me you want to be loyal and be promoted and do all this stuff. Yeah. Turn that piece of paper over there, Peter, my man. Write me 2 paragraphs on a coming of age moment. You know, when you beat up a bully or you saved a kitten or you did both in one day. I don't know. Why am I doing this? A, because if my good friend Peter asked you a question on the phone, can you give him an answer? Do you have depth and essence, right? Can I make a cool nickname for you if you're not feeling well on a Wednesday? And can I see if I can connect? Because if you can't do that in the spur of the moment, tell me an awesome story on why you were a winner, so I can learn something positive about you. And maybe when it comes down to it and I really need you, you're going to disappoint me. You're going to peace out on me and go to Amazon the next day. And so you do these psychological tests, these mathematic tests, these IT tests, typing tests, background checks, referrals. Yeah. Give me the secret key. Let me know in the moment, in a spontaneous moment. Peter, are you capable of shining? Can you connect with me, my man, for just a second? Can you stop performing or even pretending? And to see if we can be future best friends. I am selective. This is my time. This is my company. And I've made bad decisions before. People have tracked in dog dew on the carpet, if you know what I mean. But there's also been some incredible people that have stepped up to the plate and gave me such reassurance that what I'm doing is correct. You know, my friend, when you balance the bike for somebody and then you let go and it's so exciting to see them ride. I'm an old man. I'm 50, about to be 51. So this younger generation, when I see them have breakthroughs and shedding skin, that gets me very excited. And so that's why the jewels and the gold came because people believed in me enough to elevate me. And by supporting me, gave me that sort of stability. And that's where the money came. And I can't be more grateful for something like that, Peter.
Interesting. So for those businesses looking to outsource their operations, probably sales or customer service, to a company like yours, what would you tell them to look out for? So they don't,
Outbound sales, outbound lead generation or appointment setting, inbound customer support, back office support, non-voice support. If somebody's doing sales, I think that's kind of tricky because you're looking cradle to grave and someone might not be versed in that market. Or I always believe that somebody should do a warm transfer and then go on mute and listen to the closer corporate, so then they'd be able to onboard faster and learn if that's the individual taking it down to the 10-yard line. But appointment setting is great if the list is good. And since people today have more online presence with LinkedIn and profiles and websites, given time, unless you're just predictive dialing and carpet bombing, you can get some goodies in order to make a custom-made email or voicemail to somebody to separate you from somebody else. Just by, like, if you said, hey, Philadelphia, pinball machine, 16 years in business, Costa Rica Call Center, man, I'm going to give you 5 minutes, Peter. It's yours to lose. And so I've tried to upgrade these voicemails, emails, and even introductions when we're calling a company by doing a company name spike, maybe knowing who the owner is, or in positive escalation. So when I get transferred, I talk about Kathy, do it in writing. That's important. And it's important also to be open-minded to the validity of your list. Is it good? Is it old? Right? Is it qualified? And also you have to give us proper resources because we need to be on a level playing field. You can't expect me to go to the beach on 30 cents worth of gas. It just doesn't work that way. And even on the flip side, think of the mentality of the agent. How do you think they're going to feel when 3 out of 10 are not even that good? I mean, you got to make sure that the soldiers feel all right so they can find their rhythm in the middle of the day and mark the board and compete that way. And so a lot of the time, I will make suggestions, Peter, in regards to the tone of the script. Maybe they're not experienced enough in prospecting where they expect it to be like Hollywood, or just like when you see in a porn movie, you just knock on the door and someone's like, let's go. I mean, It doesn't happen like that in real life. It could, but the metrics aren't there. But the most important thing is that people do not compromise ethics or values. Minding it is English second language, so you have to realize the vocabulary. You might need to write it out phonetically so they can pronounce it even though they know how to spell it. And also, as I mentioned before, the thesaurus, there might be some word that could give them a power up, make them more comfortable, more relatable, or they feel comfortable with it. It's almost like someone choosing the tie to wear with the suit. So at least they feel like they're participating in some way compared to making it too rigid. And so we avoid words like help. I'll use guide and assist. Instead of saying, excuse me, Peter, I'll say for my clarification. These are the sort of small swords that we fall upon to keep the tone positive. Your dog might be barking about soap collection. It's okay. That's my issue. It's not yours. I don't want to spook the kitty. I don't want to rock the boat. And so these are things that we do to preserve the call, but also our egos are fine. Some people that are shallow might get offended, but sometimes you have to understand someone might step on your toes if they're dancing with you for the first time. So as long as you're not putting on your pearly whites on your feet, expect it. And especially if you're a boxer, you should expect to get hit in the chin, or if you've been boxing so much, expect the right hook. And so when you've been making tens of thousands of phone calls, you can almost put it out before it even gets out there by saying, I know what you're thinking, Peter. ABC 1, 2, 3, right? Oh yeah, Richard, are you a psychic? No, I know your call. And so we can lead along, we can shave time so you don't have to repeat it 3 times. And so these are certain things that are not lying. It's just being more attentive, lucid. My goodness gracious, I could give you meeting minutes And so by doing that, I believe increases our percentages of a conversion ratio because there's less fear, there's more connection, and you're really just cutting away a lot of fat. But what happens if I got to call him back? Then call him back. This is not Blake and Glengarry. Sometimes, like Peter, your audience doesn't realize that you're a professional and you qualify your guests. You and I, we didn't speak on the phone, but we communicated via LinkedIn multiple times, wishing each other well on the weekends. You know, we're all excited and everything. And so we were chumming it up prior to this thing. And that's what pros do. You just didn't throw me out there in the deep end on this podcast. We both got a chance to know one another and to make nice. And so as long as people are willing to build a pipeline, respect people's parameters, stay with those target dates, keep up with people, take your notes, shave the fat, have patience, there's no reason why you can't not only build a business, but triangle it where you just really start ripping through it and really getting your rhythm and learning where to go. And it takes a little time, but there's also, Peter, there is that 10% that none of us know about. You know, when they say, you know, stars aligned, winning, you're back. And so for me, I am very grateful of those stars being aligned. And for the 18-year-old Richard deciding to continue to learn Spanish. And for me, not succumbing to the pressures of certain careers or, you know, expectations. I wanted to leave that castle. I wanted to slay a dragon and have an adventure. And I'm here today to let you know that I'm not a tech expert, but I have one that's behind me and this other side of the wall. But to let your audience know if they have a chance to feed families and pay it forward and make connections and build teams, that's a beautiful thing. And they should at least try. And try to me is that extra 20% because most people quit at 80%, if let alone start at all. But you do know those boxers and those athletes, or how about the people that made it over the oceans and crossed deserts and out of the mountains that should have been dead? But there's something inside of them spiritually that keeps them going. And for me, I would have never been happy with my life if I had just settled for the box with no walls. That's no fun. I wouldn't be on your podcast telling fun stories. I'd still be bald, but I'd be miserable. And that would be terrible, Peter. You definitely wouldn't want me as a guest. So I think your health and your life and your smile and all that stuff is very important for you. And I want your audience to take that leap of faith and especially in themselves. And reach out to me and let me know your story. You know me, I'll be your biggest fan.
That's amazing. So for
we're
audience,
having fun today, right?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. So for audience members who might want to reach out to you, who might want to learn from you, who might want to maybe work with you too, how can they reach you?
Well, first they can buy a plane ticket and fly to Costa Rica, especially when it gets freezing in the UK in the wintertime, right? Definitely come down and visit. But if they can't get that ticket today, you can see my very large Facebook fan page, Costa Rica's Call Center. There are close to 120,000 local Costa Rica ticos on there. And when this goes live, Peter, you're going to get a lot of new fans and they're going to get to know your show.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good stuff. But real quick for your audience, you were mentioning where we are in the world. We are north of Panama, south of Nicaragua. Costa Rica is the only democratic society in Central America. So there's no standing army here. They put all their money back into education. They boast a 95% literacy rate. I mentioned the big boys that are here, but we're known for ecotourism, medical tourism. And so people come here to live the pura vida, the pure life. And ever since I walked off the plane in August of 2000, I really consider this home. And Peter, I can't thank you enough. I had the best time on your podcast today. Look what you do bringing this out of me.
The way you talk about Costa Rica, I'll probably add that to my bucket list of places to visit.
Oh man, I'm definitely getting you at the airport. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Listen, Costa Rica's got some of the best surfing in the world. One
Wow.
of the top 10 in the world of surfing. And plus, if you like volcanoes and zip lining and quad bikes and stuff, it's just nature's paradise. It really is a beautiful rainforest. Now, it can be a little dangerous. Don't touch certain frogs and stay away from snakes and stuff. But when you are in the middle of this natural beauty, sitting under a waterfall, and you see the birds and the flowers and the plants, and the air is as fresh as anything. I mean, it's cool. Plus, your skin looks good. You might lose some weight. People always seem to lose weight and get a better shape when they come down here because they're eating so much of the natural fruit and a lot of the beef and the chicken. This is stuff that's from the farms. And it tastes differently. It's not as big and beefy, but it's delicious. And I tell you what, when you go to the farmer's market on the weekend, you can stock a fridge for under $50. I mean, you could it's incredible what you're capable of getting here that is so fresh and so healthy, where you almost have to change your lifestyle a little bit, unless you just want McDonald's every day. But you can't help but to bite into something, an apple or some of this fruit that is just so fresh. And the seafood's good too. I mean, why would you go anywhere else? And, to me, there's so much to learn here. I mean, there's a place called Tortuguero, which is in the north, eastern part of the country. And so this is where the turtles lay the eggs. It's a national park, very tough to get to. But these are places that are so remote and so untouched. There's not a billboard, there's no roads, there's nothing. And so if somebody really wants to see what these things are like and to experience being up close with nature, they have these special trips that go there. And so people come here to not just lay on the beach. It's a lot of it is just adventure driven. And they want to see if they can overcome certain fears when it comes to bungee jumping or zip lining or seeing monkeys and animals and stuff. And but yeah, man, we'd love to have you come and visit. I got 1,001 suggestions.
Definitely. It sounds like my kind of place. So I love exploring a lot. So thank you so much for coming on the Tech Your Business show today and sharing your story, sharing your experience and everything with us today. And for the listeners, I'm sure you've picked a couple of things from this episode from Richard's experience. And like he said, if you want to reach him, every link will be in the show notes, or you can just book the flight ticket to Costa Rica and you can meet up there. So thank you very much for being on the show. To the listeners, thank you for coming, for being with us this long. Until next week, when we come to you with another episode of this podcast, don't forget to keep taking your business. Bye for now.